Good evening to everyone, and welcome to the Buddhist Society of Victoria, to the Buddhaloka Buddhist Centre. And for those who don't know who I am, who are we anyway? Yes, I'm Ajahn Nissarano, and I'm an Australian monk who ordained with Ajahn Brahm in Perth 22 years ago as a full monk, as a higher ordination, and 23 years ago as a novice monk. And for the past 13 and a half years been living in Sri Lanka and visiting Australia. I'm visiting Australia every year pretty much lately, and coming to the Buddhist Society of Victoria. So I always mention too that I was a layperson here, so I have a connection from a long time ago, from the 1990s, so that's quite a while ago. So that's introduction to myself. And this evening I thought I'd emphasise because usually what we have is an introduction to the guided meditation, and then that's about half an hour. Then stretch the legs, very important, get the blood flowing, and then have a meditation for about 45 minutes. And then after that, if there are any comments or questions or complaints, so we can, and that's the usual format. So this evening I thought I'd focus, first of all, mention a bhavana. This is a part of the Buddhist path of practice. We often hear of, we call it dana, sila and bhavana. And that dana means giving or sharing. And it encompasses more than just giving to the Sangha, to monks and Buddhist monks and Buddhist nuns. It's all forms of giving and sharing. And then, of course, we have the sila. This is the ethical behaviour. So our actions of body and speech, and also it does encompass the mind as well. But bhavana is, in Sri Lanka, we have the term bhavana usually means meditation. So, but meditation is only part of bhavana. Bhavana is the development or cultivation of the mind, like we're cultivating the garden or cultivating a crop, and very much the way we cultivate or that crop, it will depend. The outcome of that will depend on the way we go about it, whether we do it in a good way. So this bhavana, this developing of the mind, is actually really essentially what the Buddha calls in the Noble Eightfold Path. Many people probably heard of the Noble Eightfold Path, and it's the sixth factor, and this is called right effort. And that right effort is to develop and maintain positive or wholesome mind states, and to avoid or let go of negative ones. And this is actually a practice, it's not just for meditation, it's 24/7. We have to look after the mind, day in, day out, all day, all night. Usually when we come to a Buddhist centre, the mind is quite well behaved, actually. And people are usually too. So this is good. This is good and well. But of course, the other occasions, we're using our mind all the time. When we go to work, when we involved in social occasions, when we're interacting with our family and friends, wherever we go, we're using our minds. And it's always a part of our practice to watch, to see what state the mind is in, and then, and if possible, to make any adjustments or not quite bring up some things that will, causes and conditions that will lead to changing an unwholesome state of mind, letting go of it. And in fact, when we develop positive states of mind and maintain them, we are, in fact, avoiding unwholesome states of mind and not experiencing them, so we don't necessarily have to let go. So this is something that we need to do in our lives, not just here, not just on the cushion, not just on the walking path, But it's very interesting, people don't have a spiritual tradition that they're practicing within, then they don't tend to think that they can cultivate the mind. And for many people, say in the West, the idea of cultivating states like loving kindness is quite foreign to them. They think you either have it or you don't. You're either a loving person or you're not. So intrinsically seeing whatever states of mind we have as being part of ourselves and being more or less fixed, which is an unfortunate way to look at it. And because of that, oftentimes people are almost passively or unknowingly cultivating some of the negative qualities. For instance, cultivating or developing positive or negative qualities just means we're repeating them again and again. We're making them a pattern, something that's much easier for us to do because it's so familiar. And we can, and many people are doing this, developing negative things in the mind, getting angry, getting irritated, getting grumpy, getting critical, looking at the faults in the world, looking at the faults in ourselves, and arising from that, developing very negative states of mind. But people oftentimes won't realise that they're actually doing that. By giving attention, the Buddha said, whatever we give attention to, that grows. And so if we give attention to positive qualities, that grows. If we give attention to negative qualities, that will grow. And the thing that enables a lot of these negative qualities is delusion, not seeing things clearly, not seeing things as they are. And we believe, that we're perfectly entitled to get angry and upset and all these things. And of course we are entitled, but it's not much fun for us, and it can create this habit in the mind that gets stronger and stronger by repetition. So this is something that, all spiritual traditions emphasise, developing good qualities in the mind. Developing good qualities, sometimes in other traditions, like Christian tradition, it'll be through good actions. But if we're doing good actions, usually the mind states will be of a similar nature. So this evening, and most of my teaching actually focuses on positive mind states that we can develop. And there's so many in Buddhism, there's so many that are available to us. And some of them, the common ones are like loving kindness, contentment, gratitude, there's thankfulness. Many of these sorts of positive states of mind we can develop. And I teach quite a few of them, actually. But for a while, I wanted to teach one of the ones that we don't often hear about, which I do use in my practice quite a bit. Have people heard of Mudita? Mudita? Have you heard? I think some, Yes. It's Mudita is part of the Buddha's teaching called the Brahma Viharas. Brahma Viharas, and this is usually translated as the divine abidings, sublime abidings, or the boundless states, because they can be developed so that they're absolutely infinite, and then they're incredibly strong. So Mudita is one of these qualities. We know most people have heard of metta, loving kindness. Everyone heard of metta, loving kindness? I think, yeah. And compassion, this is very famous. Buddha is very famous for compassion and wisdom. So that's karuna. And this one here, mudita, is the third one. And this is a joy. I translate it as joy with others' success, even with our success too. And with our good qualities, with others' good qualities. So it's a very good meditation for bringing positive qualities to the mind and addressing or balancing our tendency to look at the negative. It's amazing, I find, with the internet and everything, how, of course, news is always negatively focused because it's what somebody's done that's often, quite extraordinarily bad. So we tend to focus on it. But it does have an effect on the mind. We start to become suspicious of others. We think others are, are psychopaths and are about to do harm, or we have a very negative way of looking at life. It's not balanced. Instead, mudita it looks at the more positive aspects of people's lives, their successes in their lives, whatever sort of successes they are. But in particular tonight, I'd like to look at the qualities that people have, these good qualities that we have, other people have. And the Pali dictionary defines mudita as soft-heartedness. Nice word, isn't it? Soft-heartedness, that's good. Because mudu, like in mudita, means soft or flexible. So it's sort of a kindliness, and they say sympathy. So it's very... And some people here would know, have you heard of anumodana? That's a Pali word, anumodana. And this is rejoicing, anu, along with, and modana, rejoicing along with. So this is something we do when someone offers something to monks and nuns. We rejoice along with them. And we also have the idea too, when we have punya anumodana, we call it. And this is rejoicing at the merits people have made, the good things that they've done. So this is, as I say, joy with others, or success, or qualities is a translation I like. And it comes from more from Ayakema. Actually, Ayakema, the famous German Buddhist nun, she used to use that quite a bit. Other names for it, which I think Bhikkhu Bodhi uses, altruistic joy. It's sort of selfless, selfless joy, I suppose you say, or, selfless giving. Or sympathetic joy is another one, yes, that people use. And appreciative joy. So these are all focusing on what the Visuddhimagga, this is a famous meditation manual for Buddhist meditation, and it focuses on it as gladness. That's what it talks about, gladness. But it's actually this quality of taking joy in something that's good, and it's usually often the good quality in another person or their success. We don't hear very often of mudita meditations. I only remember once hearing of it when a monk I know from Western Australia, he was in Western Australia then, Ajahn Nissarano taught. He gave a mudita guided meditation. Like, it'll be a bit different what I do this evening. So, and the interesting thing with this mudita meditation is that the Buddha usually taught these four qualities that I mentioned: loving kindness, that's metta; karuna or compassion; mudita, joy with others, success or good qualities; and equanimity, upekkha. He taught them usually together, like you do metta first, then karuna, and then mudita, and then equanimity. So they were a set. He did them together usually. We tend to do it. We do a lot of loving kindness actually, or maybe some compassion meditation, that sort of thing. So this is, and I'll read out how the Buddha encouraged. It doesn't give you a lot of detail how to do it, but it does give you the idea of that he does it in a sequence, and also it gives you an idea of the power of these meditations. Sometimes people think of loving kindness as being a bit like these soft toys, soft and fluffy and sweet. But really it has the power, an enormous power, when it becomes boundless. And this is what the Buddha is interested in. When the liberation of the mind, he calls it through loving kindness, or through joy with others, through compassion, through equanimity. So, and this can be the basis for making a breakthrough to enlightenment too, can be used. So this is a famous chant. In Thailand they do this chant as a regular part of their evening chanting or morning chanting. So I'll just read it out so it gives you an idea. And it comes from the Buddhist teachings from the middle length discourses. And it's called, this is what the Buddha says: he abides pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with loving kindness, likewise the second quarter, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above, below, around, everywhere, and to all as to oneself. One abides pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. And so that's the loving kindness. And then he goes on to one abides pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with compassion, and then with a mind imbued with joy with others. I'll read that out. Likewise the second, likewise the third quarter, likewise the fourth. So above, below, around, and everywhere, and so to all as to oneself. One abides pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with joy with others, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. And then the last one, one abides pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, measurable, without ill will and without ill will. So that's how the Buddha described these Brahma Viharas. So he did them as a set. And it's interesting because, of course, metta or loving kindness is usually, you can think of it in one way as being to oneself and to others that are not in a particularly difficult situation at that time. And whereas compassion is for oneself and for others when there are problems and difficulties in our lives and their lives. And mudita, it looks at the situation when there is successes or good things happening in our life, and other people's lives. And equanimity is when, for ourselves and for others, we cannot do much at that particular time. Things are playing themselves out. Equanimity has this balance that sees that this time one can just be there, let it be, and support the person, support oneself with loving kindness, but allow that energy or that situation to play out. So, you could ask yourself, what are the benefits of practicing mudita, practicing joy with others? And as I mentioned, first of all, it gives us that balance, because otherwise we can get a very negative focus on life, and as a result, I think you can see, if the effect you can see of news and a lot of the things we read on the internet can give rise to a lot of fear, insecurity, can give rise to anxiety, because it makes us fearful of the possibilities in the world, without giving us the balance that there are positive inputs happening as well, which don't get so much airplay. And of course, then that can also mean that we look at ourselves in a very fault-finding way, in a negative way. So this provides balance when we look at the good qualities of other people, the successes of other people, and in that way reduce those fears and insecurities. But the main purpose of mudita meditation, of joy with others, is to reduce envy and jealousy. This is the states of mind that I think everybody is quite familiar with. For instance, that we think, why them? Why not me? That they, whatever good success they've had, that sort of thing. We don't necessarily wish them well. We just think, wow, how come I didn't get it? That sort of idea. So it's this jealousy and envy, of course, is a very negative quality in our minds, and it's a very unpleasant quality. But we can see, that also when we practice mudita, it will reduce these and other negative qualities like desire and ill will, and also that tendency to compare ourselves with others. That's quite a strong thing that it can reduce, and we can just rejoice in the successes of other people, the good qualities that they have. And in actual fact, we can use them sort of as role models, and this is what I'll talk about in a minute. So, and when we think, why are they getting this opportunity, this promotion, or winning the lottery, or whatever it is that somebody has experienced? I would say it's because the causes and conditions are right for that person to experience that at that time, and of course the wisdom that we often hear from Ajahn Brahm. Good, bad, who knows? We can't tell. Sometimes things turn out very differently, even from what we expect. But oftentimes I find, I think you've probably noticed it too, there's actually reverse mudita in many ways, when people take a sort of joy or delight in people's problems and suffering, and either thinking, well, thank goodness it's not me, but also maybe thinking that that they've joined the club, as it were. They suffer, and they've joined the club of people who are suffering. So oftentimes people do, they can. I've seen it myself, that can take a delight in somebody's difficult situation. But the main thing we get from mudita, from joy, reflecting on joys with joy with other success, is it's like a piggyback effect. They're happy, but if we rejoice in their happiness, their good fortune, their good qualities, we get happiness. So this is what I call the piggyback effect. We're riding on this person's happiness, and in actual fact creating a positive, we say win-win, win-win out of that situation. We're getting something out of it too. And this gives rise to this joy and this happiness, we call it piti sukha, which we can use in our meditation, which we can use in our lives too, because then this will buoy us up, this will give us a feeling of joy and happiness. So this is something that can be very useful. And sometimes you find I find that when people are talking about their lives, their difficulties in lives and so on, and how they've overcome that can give me a lot of joy and inspiration. So we see a lot, this is the good side of the internet, of motivational speakers, and some of them talking about the problems that they had in life and how they overcame them and the qualities they developed. And I've seen quite a few that really inspire. I don't know if people have seen Janine Shepherd, the woman who had she was on doing some cycling. She was an athlete and doing some cycling and got hit by a truck, and the spine was broken in 6 places, and they didn't think she could walk, and all this sort of thing. And it shows her determination, actually, her strength of mind. That's one of the qualities you could really identify to overcome this. And she has this breakthrough when she's sitting on a veranda and she's in a full body cast in a wheelchair, and she can hardly, I think she can move a toe a little bit. And she saw a plane flying over, and she said, well, if I can't walk, I can fly. And so amazingly, she learnt to fly and actually became a pilot and became an instructor. All this, quite incredible. And she was able to walk again, and even later have children, which was just phenomenal because it was not expected. But some of these people, they can really inspire us, and that's that joy. I associate that joy with mudita, with the way they've dealt with a difficult situation. There are many, many people like that. I think Nelson Mandela is one that inspires many people, that he didn't become bitter and twisted, as they say, and that can inspire us too. But this very much links into what we, focusing on a person's good qualities, can become like what we call kalyana mitta, like that person can become a role model for us, a spiritual friend for us, in the sense that when we see somebody who embodies particular qualities, we can actually see how they are. When you see somebody with a quality, you can get an idea of how we can do it too. And so this is a very, very useful thing with focusing on people's good qualities. And for me, of course, I think there are many. I really enjoy seeing the good qualities in people, and getting a lot of happiness out of that. Whether they be monks or nuns, whether they be lay people that I've met, it can be anybody actually. And some when we see these people, it can be very inspiring. So, like Ajahn Brahm, for me, he's got so many inspiring qualities that I find, they're a role model for me. And, like naturalness, kindness. I don't think anybody could match his humour. I think it's not possible. It's probably dangerous too to try. And his mindfulness. When you live with somebody, you see their mindfulness much better, actually. And his adaptability and flexibility is extraordinary, I think, because I've seen him over more than 25 years, so it's incredible. And also his wisdom too, so all these things. But because being a Buddhist monk, I look for these good qualities actually, and are not so, people's bad qualities of course become very obvious to us, but and maybe our bad qualities too. But if we focus on them, they can become the basis for negative qualities to arise in our mind, not positive ones. So I know in Sri Lanka I've met many lay people who have got really amazing qualities, and some of them just extraordinary, in terms of generosity, their sort of faith or their confidence in the Buddha's teaching, even their wisdom, the way they'll put themselves out to help monks and nuns, the kindness and consideration. And for me, it's interesting because I think for Buddhists from the West, our faith faculty or confidence faculty, this is saddha in Pali, is not as strong, not so strong. But if you live in a Buddhist country, it's very interesting. You come into contact with it much more, and you pick it up much more. And of course, one of the best things for developing faith is actually to go to India and see the holy sites, go visit the place where the Buddha was born, where he became enlightened, where he gave his first teaching and then passed away, those 4 places. It really gives a lot of faith and confidence. And of course, it's all very well to look at people at a distance and see the good qualities, but here in the BSV, or in your lives, there will be people who have good qualities yourself, other people who have good qualities. So we look at closer to home is good. And when we do that, we can develop a sense of thanks or gratitude too for these good qualities. So this meditation, which we're about to start, will focus on the good qualities of someone we can bring to mind. Maybe we can think of somebody who... I hope you don't spend the whole meditation trying to think of someone whose qualities got good qualities. Oh, God. If you do, then it probably is a sign that the mind is directed towards looking at the negative. That's one of the things I often do a test for. I think I ask people, can you think of 3 good things about yourself? And then I ask, can you think of 3 things that are not so good? Which was easier? Usually sorry? Not so good, yes. Because we've we have a to-do list, an improvement list, could be better list. And we do that on ourselves pretty much, actually. And we don't look at the good qualities we already have, actually. So this is naturally the way our minds are inclined, because of this natural desire to go towards tanha. We call it desire or craving, and it's what our society is promoting. Because if people don't have this sense of desire coming from the sense of, oh, it could be better, this will lead to my happiness if I get this. If we didn't have that, then people would be afraid Chadstone would close down. I don't think so. I don't think it's ever going to happen. So this evening, as I said, we focus on the good qualities of people. I wasn't going to focus on their successes, because that we can derail the meditation that way. I think sometimes people may find negative states coming up, negative mind thoughts or whatever. So, are there any questions about mudita meditation or joy with others, success or good qualities? Has anybody ever done a mudita meditation? Oh, you have? Who?
Not that one, but a
Different one. Who did you do it with?
Ajahn I read he's got a little booklet on.
Oh, has he really? Oh, I must have a look at it. Yeah.
Sort of does it from the opposite perspective, looking at, I think, trying to bring up a memory that brings up your ego and defensiveness, and kind of looking at how that's constructed. And
Oh, all right.
from the other side.
All right. No, that looks like sounds like it would buy into some negative states of mind, I think. Yeah. Because we're really aiming at bringing up something that's very joyful, joyful. And the reason that the Buddha I think the reason he often does it to the directions, you remember the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter and fourth quarter, is so that it avoids, individuals' personal bringing up personalities, which could derail the meditation as we get into stories about what they've done, they've said, which could derail loving kindness or joy with their good qualities, success and so on. He tends to avoid that because he's interested in making the mind this unbounded quality that's incredibly strong, and then everybody's included in that. When it's unbounded, we're included in it too. That's the nice thing about all beings. We're part of all beings. So sometimes people feel like they can't give themselves loving kindness or in this case joy with others' success or good qualities. But, this is, we're included in all beings. So very good. So if you'd like to stretch your legs for a minute, and this is the important part of meditation. Oh. Are people quite warm? I feel quite warm. You feel warm? Maybe you have a bit of AC. I think it's warm.
Open the windows or some fresh air. Open the windows.
Do you think it's enough?
We can open the windows quite cool.
Yeah. Is it? Quite cool. It feels quite warm. I feel quite warm. Ah. Is that enough? Oh, there we are. Oh. So we can try this mudita meditation, this joy with others, success or good qualities. And the first thing for us is to, first of all, come into the present moment and let go of the past and the future. Just leave it at the door where we can pick it up later. And if we can pay attention to adjusting the body so that it is comfortable for the meditation, about 45 minutes. And we can close the eyes. And we can start from the feet, just checking out how the feet are on the floor, and the legs. And are we sitting comfortably on the cushion or the chair? And how the hips, if they are balanced, you can move them around to find the optimum position. And then moving the attention up the back to see if it's reasonably straight but not tense. And then focusing on the shoulders and moving them around to give them a bit of exercise. And balancing them, just finding a sort of a balance for them. And placing the hands where they are most comfortable, either on the lap or on the legs, the thighs, or however we find comfortable and balanced. And also looking at the position of the neck and the head over the shoulders. If they feel balanced, a good position. Some people find tucking the chin in is helpful. However, we can feel the body, allow it to balance. Just sitting with the body here. And we can start relaxing the body from the top of the head with this sort of kindness, relaxation, soothing attention. The top of the head, the back of the head, the sides of the head. Giving this warm attention, relaxing attention, and moving the attention down the forehead and soothing that. And moving down to the cheeks and relaxing them. And around the eyes and around the mouth. Soothing, relaxing. And bringing to mind the neck and moving our attention down the neck, all around. This warm attention. And bringing to mind the right shoulder, starting at the neck and slowly moving our attention along the shoulder, relaxing, letting go of any tension or strain. And now bringing to mind the right arm, starting at the top of the arm and moving slowly down the right arm, taking in the elbow, the wrist, hand and fingers. And bringing to mind the left shoulder, starting at the neck and moving our attention along the left shoulder, relaxing and soothing the left shoulder. And now bringing to mind the left arm, starting at the top of the left arm and moving our attention slowly down the left arm, including the elbow, the wrist, the hands and the fingers. And now bringing to mind the back, starting below the shoulders and moving our attention down the back slowly with this warm, kind attention, mentally massaging the back. And now bringing to mind the front of the body, starting just below the shoulders and moving our attention down the front of the body to include the chest, the diaphragm, the stomach and the abdomen, soothing them, giving this warm, relaxing attention. Now bringing to mind the right leg, starting at the top of the right leg and moving our attention all around the right leg, down the right leg, including the knee and the foot and the toes. Now focusing on the left leg, starting at the top of the left leg and moving our attention slowly down the left leg all around and including the knee, ankle, foot and toes. Now bringing to mind the whole body, just sitting here, relaxed, soothed, and hopefully comfortable. Just sitting here in the present moment. And we can have the intention for this meditation to develop joy with someone's qualities. And we can bring to mind even our own qualities. It can be used. But we can bring to mind perhaps a teacher or a spiritual teacher, a parent, grandparent, friend, whoever, someone that has a very positive quality that we notice. And we can pay attention to the feeling that can arise when we recognize this positive quality in this other person, or even in ourselves, really. And this feeling we may be aware of can be like a warmth or a joy, maybe a sense of thanks or inspiration, appreciation. And we can fill our bodies with this feeling of joy, appreciation, however, or thanks. Fill our bodies from head to toe with this feeling of this joyful or appreciative feeling. Filling the body and the mind with this joy. It allows the mind to let go of any of the negative qualities, the worries, the tiredness, whatever state we find the mind in at this time. Allowing this joy to fill the body and mind. And when we breathe in, we can breathe in this sense of joy or thanks or appreciation, and we can breathe it out to the world. Breathing it in, this joy, appreciation, gladness, and breathing it out. If people like a mantra, can always use a mantra to go with it. Something like sadhu is good for people who know Buddhist language. And or wonderful is another one. Marvelous is another one. Awesome, more recent one. Breathing in this joy and breathing it out. Allowing it to fill us and fill the mind, the body, and breathing it out to the world. And if this feeling of joy or happiness, thankfulness reduces, we can bring to mind the quality that originally brought this feeling up. Person, the quality that brought this feeling to our minds. share this joy with others, good qualities, with everyone here in the hall, like a gift. Wishing them this joy, this thankfulness, appreciation, gladness, however they experience it. Sharing it with all the people, beings here in this hall. And expanding it little by little outside this hall to include all beings, the insects, the people, the animals, or everyone, with this feeling of sharing this joy, thankfulness, appreciation. And expanding it to fill the whole of Melbourne. That these beings, these people, the animals, filled with this positive energy, these good qualities. And expanding it further to fill the whole of Victoria. Sharing these positive, this joy, these positive qualities with all the beings, people, animals, insects, here in Victoria. And expanding it further to encompass the whole of Australia. Especially for those beings that have been affected by the fires, bushfires, to give them this sense of joy, positive energy. They can lighten the situation, bring hope. And then expanding this feeling of sharing joy to the whole world, to all the beings in the whole world and in every realm of existence, wherever beings exist. we can slowly come back to ourselves and focus on this feeling of joy at the good qualities of others and even ourselves. And we can have the wish or the aspiration to pay more attention to the good qualities of others and develop more of this feeling of joy that arises from that. And to have this aspiration or wish to share it with others. Especially through our speech and our actions, to share this joy at the good qualities of oneself and others. And we can anchor this feeling of joy at the good qualities of others and ourselves in our hearts. So it's something we can remember and return to whenever we need. And we can just reflect for a few moments on the meditation and how we feel now. Do we feel any different from before the meditation? And we can ask ourselves, were we able to get in touch with this feeling of joy, appreciation or thanks, gladness, arising from the good qualities of others or ourselves? Were we able to feel that? And we can ask ourselves how we felt when we shared this joy with others here in this hall and all around the world. How did that feel? Did it feel different from when we were experiencing that ourselves? And we can just reflect on whether this feeling of joy or appreciation, thanks, gladness, whether it changed during the meditation. Did it arise, remain for a time, and pass away and then re-arise? What was the experience? Was it coming and going? We're noticing the mind changing. And we can ask ourselves, what caused these feelings to arise? What triggered them? What brought them up in the mind, in the emotions? And we can ask ourselves, who or what experienced this feeling, whatever feeling we experienced? Did we make it happen, or did it arise just from the causes and conditions? And now we can slowly come out of the meditation and open our eyes slowly and move the body to make ourselves more comfortable. So, as I usually ask, are there any comments, questions or complaints?
Ajahn, thank you very much. There are some online questions.
Yes.
Before we do, I'd just like to mention that we were all part of a circle of Mudita that went around the world because we had people listening from Scotland, UK, Geelong, India, Sri Lanka, and France.
France, right.
So there are just a couple of questions. The first question is, how can I cultivate energy to keep wholesome thoughts in mind more often so that it's natural to me? For the time being, I have to try hard to keep my mind from defilements.
Right. The way we can keep the mind free of defilements is to develop more positive states, make them more of a default setting for the mind. That's a good way to avoid a lot of the negative states of mind coming up in the first place. But to develop the energy to do that really comes from seeing the benefits in keeping the mind, but not keeping the mind, creating the conditions for the mind to be positive, to be wholesome, and seeing the drawbacks, seeing what it's like when it isn't. That's a great incentive for developing more positive states of mind, because we just see that it's so much more pleasant, so much more enjoyable, so much less problems in our lives when we have positive mind states and emotions. So I hope that helped with that one. Yes.
Right, thank you, Ajahn. And the second question from the United Kingdom: how can I simply observe my thoughts and accept their presence without buying into their content and so getting lost in thinking? Thank you.
Right. Yes, that is a difficult one, actually. And often that's why, oftentimes people use labelling or that sort of recognition that thinking is happening without going into the contents, and to avoid getting caught up in the stories that go with it, because that's very easy to happen, with these thoughts, and especially because they can get into a loop, and we can just keep going over and over it again. So in that case, it's often very good just to notice that one is thinking and not go into the details of the thinking. That's a possibility. But if it's an obsessive thought, maybe we can replace it with a mantra, a word, something like that, useful. Of course, the the real refuge is being in the present moment. Let the thoughts, because then they don't continue so much in the present moment, just being grounded with the body particularly, because we're giving attention to the mind, and the mind is thinking. But if we ground it with the body, paying more attention to the body, seeing the present moment as an oasis from the thinking, most of the thinking is about the future or the past. So if we can come into the present moment, we can find that as a refuge, actually, or from the thinking. And part of the reason we continue to focus on the thinking, because we think it's our thinking, it's our stuff. So we're going to give attention to it. We think it's important and so on, not realizing that really it's arisen from the conditions, that we've experienced. We've thought about it a lot, or other people have told us this is something is an issue or whatever it is, and so we tend to get caught. These thinking tends to get a momentum of its own. If we don't identify with it, this is my thinking, my thoughts. It's a bit like when we're on the bus or the train. If we overhear somebody's conversation, we're not going to be very upset. We may even be bored. We may even think, well, why can't they keep this to themselves? But if you can develop that idea of watching your thoughts and thinking of it as somebody else's thoughts, or like listening to a conversation that you're not that interested in, we've heard many times before, that can help. Because that's our ownership of things that really creates the problems, the attachments. That's easier said than done, actually. But sometimes you can find these little things that work for you, like the idea of, it's an overhearing somebody else's conversation, think, may help one let go from identifying it as something personal, as something important. So I hope that helps. Yeah. And I was going to mention too that for this meditation to become a pamana, to become this boundless state, the way one would do that is just to go to the feeling. So the feeling is everything else drops away, and just to be with the feeling, and the feeling becomes the object of the meditation. And then that can lead into these jhana states, the deep meditation states, and then the mind becomes completely sort of boundless, becomes boundless. So this is how it can be done, same with metta, same with karuna, with also with equanimity too. We can use all of these. But of course, it may be a good approach to use all four of them, try all four of them during the day, because there'll be situations during the day that will need different responses. And metta is sometimes appropriate, karuna, compassion, is joy with other people's success or good qualities, and equanimity when things are out of control. This is quite, it could be with ourselves too, the mind just going on, and just that, having that quality of equanimity, letting it be, can be the wisest thing at those times, rather than trying to stop it or control it when it's out of control. So that's a very useful thing. And one of the things that Ayakema used to mention, it was more in a negative sense. She would be talking about, anger. If people get angry, they get upset with another person. She would say, don't blame the trigger. They're only the trigger, because the emotion we're experiencing, the anger, the irritation, annoyance, whatever it is, envy, jealousy, whatever it is we're experiencing, is within us. They're just triggering it off. So this is what she would say, don't blame the trigger. And her formula would be recognition of the situation, no blame, and then change. But we can use the same concept in a positive way, and we did that this evening, using other people's good qualities as a trigger, using other qualities of that we find generate loving kindness, like the idea of a best friend is a very useful one. Using these to trigger these qualities, these emotions, these positive mind states. And we can get very creative with it, and we can get to develop these mind states or these emotions more easily if we can pick up those triggers and use them that way. So that can be a very useful thing, because this quality we can take into our meditation, into our lives, and of course it's very useful in the meditation, because the mind that is content, that is happy, is the mind that can develop one-pointedness, and from that one-pointedness develop insight into the nature of our existence. So even at the end of it, that review is really looking at, some of the big issues, the biggies in Buddhism, which is, change, impermanence, change, seeing things change in the mind, and also seeing unsatisfactoriness, that sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't there, that things, that when we can't have things the way we want them to be, then this is usually unsatisfactory. And also, one of the big things is that it's not to take it personally. This is an emotion, loving kindness, mudita, are emotions that come from causes within the mind, and we don't have to own them personally and then think, I can't do metta, I can't do mudita or whatever. These are qualities that can come up given the right triggers, the right causes, and we can develop them and recondition the way we see the world. And as I say, we need that sort of balance given, a lot of the negativity that one often encounters about the world situation and the news and about coronavirus and all manner of things. So fortunately there is some good news. I know the ABC app, it has one section called Good News. It's only one amongst about 10 or 15 sections. So, but it's good to focus on those things, because we see that these are good triggers for us in our lives, So we just have to see what things are giving rise to good qualities and what things aren't, and be choosy about them for our own happiness and well-being. So I'd like to finish there, because I'm just running over the time. And for those who would like to, you're welcome to pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. Good luck with Mudita.